Kowalsky here. Welcome back to another video. Now again it's Wednesday, but this time it's big because it's the first official chess world championship. I got the wording wrong, but okay, you still got a point. It's between Wilhelm Steinitz and Johannes Zukertort. Now, who will win? Well, Zukertort was definitely was a contender for the title. He won the 1883 London chess tournament, which basically was like a candidates tournament, and he was very strong in other tournaments as well. So he was definitely worthy of challenging Wilhelm Steinitz, who was, I mean, if you've seen any of my videos or my titles, you see what I mean, right? You obviously saw he beat many of the great players. He won many great tournaments. Steinitz, obviously one of the GOATs. Now, this match was played in the United States, and Steinitz actually represented the United States in this match. And the first 5 games were played in New York, then the first 4 were played in St. Louis, and then the last 11 were played in New Orleans. And they actually gave Zukertort transportation money, but okay, everything was all right in the end because the players got their funds, and it was a pretty good amount for the time. And now, the match itself was pretty interesting. They had 2 hours for the first 30 moves and then 1 hour for the next 15. And, they had actual chess clocks. So the chess clock that was introduced in the 1883 tournament was used once again. And, Steinitz ultimately won. That's not really a surprise. It's not a spoiler or anything. It was first to 10 wins, and actually Steinitz managed to get there in only 20 games. So Zukertort died 2 years later of a heart attack, and many suspect that he was overly impulsive because of this heart condition that he had. But okay, as the match went on, Zukertort went more and more insane, while Steinitz just kept his cool and became better and better. So we're gonna see the match, we're gonna see the games, and the tale being told at the board. So without further ado, let's get into the first game of the first official World Chess Championship. Steinitz has the black pieces. We're gonna see it from his perspective, and he is waiting for Zukertort's opening. Zukertort opens with the move d4. We have d5, c4, c6, and Steinitz chooses a triangle defense, something that I find slightly annoying when playing with white, as it often is drawish. But okay, Zukertort decides to play this c5 variation. That's not really played because once the bishop goes back, now you don't have any more tension here, and black's not really all that worse after e5, and that's exactly what Steinitz does. And here even e4 is straight up gaining a huge advantage over white, because after knight e2, I mean, you're just pushing the knight back, and something similar happened in the game, so I won't analyze this in too much of a depth. But now just black is better. Black has more space, and black can just push the pawns, and you're gonna see h3, knight f8, a4. And now here's 2 attacks on 2 different sides that are gonna happen. Zukertort is gonna attack on the queen side, and Steinitz is gonna attack on the king side. But the huge difference is that, well, there's a king on one side and then there's no king on the other. So knight g3, we have b5, and now knight h4, threatening to capture the pawn, and it's not really easy to defend. You cannot really go for example rook g1, as now you just get bishop h2, and if you try to go back, I have some internet problems, so it's gonna move a little bit slower. Now we just get takes, and after the king moves, now we're just gonna get this immense knight takes on e5, and now you're just straight up losing in this position. Bishop takes h3, and it's actually forced mate in 5. So you gotta be careful with how you defend, and therefore Zukertort chooses g3. But okay, Steinitz still has a solution. Knight to g2 check, king f1 only move obviously, and now knight takes on e3, and he can actually do this because he has enough compensation and the king is wide open. So king to g2, he tries to defend. Now bishop goes back to c7 and here queen to g1. This is a mistake. Computer wanted queen f1 as you had to put pressure on the bishop first and then maybe walk the king, because the way that Zukertort did it, he walked the king first and then was forced to walk the queen as well. And now we kind of get a similar position, but Zukertort lost a lot of tempi. So we have this transformation. Now just takes the pawn with check, and simply after this trade you can see Steinitz has just immense compensation. He has 3 pawns for the piece. That's more than enough. And you know, a couple of moves later he kicks out the knight, attacks the queen, and now you can already see how his advantage is manifesting here. Knight takes on f3 and e takes on f3, and now you're just gonna get forked once obviously this loads. Hopefully you can ignore the fact that my internet connection is not that good, but okay, you cannot take because you get forked. So he goes knight back to f1. Now he takes the open file, and f5 is a little bit of a blunder because it's kind of too slow, but it's fine anyways. A5 and now f4, now just I mean, it's over. In a couple of moves the material loss is just too big, and Zukertort ends up resigning anyways a couple of moves later, so this is not important anymore. I mean, Steinitz is up a queen. What are we even talking about? So that leads to the second game of the match, and keep in mind Zukertort won 4 games after the first one in a row. So during the games that were played in New York, he actually won 4 and only lost 1. So this is like the second game of the match, and Zukertort actually played this at a 90% accuracy. I had to check it, so we're all right. And you know, we're gonna also see it from the black perspective, because Zukertort also won with black, and it was a pretty crazy line here. You know, in the what's it called? I think the Spanish, some sort of Spanish. I don't really know the names. But okay, c6. Oh no, it's a Scotch. It's a Scotch. Never mind. This is the Scotch. Okay. I mean, I'm just. It's pretty late. Okay, so getting to the game, leaving names aside, we have c6 and now knight e2. Bishop back to e6, and you know, we kind of have the structure. These pawns are known as the hanging pawns, and we're gonna see white trying to play against them, you know, because these pawns are pretty weak, and we're gonna see black using these pawns trying to get some imbalance in the position. Now knight to g3. This move is considered a little bit too slow, because now h6 you get the bishop back, and black gets this easy development, and now even queen h4. Bishop takes g4 is forced, and now bishop takes g4 attacks the queen. Queen moves, and now bishop to e2. You cannot take with the knight because this is checkmate. And so you're forced to go rook e1. Now bishop back to a6. This is considered an inaccuracy because you know, the computer wanted to defend the bishop, so that it's actually keeping a lot more pressure here, a lot more squares. But okay, bishop a6, and black is definitely still fine. And now f5, and Zukertort, that's what they meant with impulsive play, because now he's basically you know, banking on the fact that he's gonna have an attack. Steinitz decides to sacrifice an exchange momentarily, you know, he's gonna win it later, and now the position is actually equal, but black really has some advanced pawns. So let's see how black's gonna kind of take advantage of that. Knight h5, now queen to e8, attacking the knight. Knight goes back to f4, and now rook to e5. You cannot take because you're gonna get back rank mated. And h4, so Steinitz resolved this problem. Now c5, defending the pawn. Chess is a logical game, as Gotham Chess would say. h5, and now this is a little bit of inaccuracy at as you know, the computer wanted b4 and just some immediate you know, undermining of the structure, but Steinitz wanted to make sure he closed everything, maybe even got an outpost for the knight. We have rook e4, and now c3, a different type of undermining the structure, but this is too slow. And now you can really see how black got his pieces together, and he's ready to attack. Knight g6. and this is the beginning of the end. Why? Because after the queen moves, now everything is defended again, and after the knight comes back, now you actually don't go back with the queen, now you just push the pawn. This is considered a mistake, a queen to c6 was better, but by pushing this pawn now defended by the bishop, you cannot take it with the knight. This is impossible, as after bishop takes, queen takes, you would have just this amazing tactic, rook to e1 check, and then you're threatening to take the rook, and if the rook takes, you take the queen. So you know, just have to imagine this, as I don't really have the possibility. Yeah, I have the possibility of showing you. And now if the rook takes, then you take the queen, and if the king moves, then you just take the rook, as it's x-rayed defended. So actually, this mistake by the computer considered d3 is actually a pretty logical move. So but it kind of loses the advantage. But okay, king h7, king h2. Now both players kind of get their king safe, and here is where Steinitz loses too much time. Bishop back to b7, Zukertort as well. Maybe it was like time pressure, as now it's kind of like approaching the 40th move, and yeah, it was definitely time pressure, because at the 35th move you lose on time, so they had to make some move fast, and you know, I mean, Zukertort just ends up winning all of these pawns, and in the end, Steinitz resigns in this position. A quick recap of after the king h2 blunder. This is like kind of like the last blunder of the game. Now basically queen takes on f2 and bishop takes on f3. You cannot take back the bishop, as the pawn just goes forward, and there's no more stopping the pawn. Okay, so now moving on to a very notable game, and this is basically where Steinitz's comeback truly begins. This is game number 13. I mean, this should be the game that I want to cover, and so Steinitz is playing with the white pieces, and we have e4, e5, and now knight to f3. We have knight to c6, and you're gonna see we kind of have a Berlin. And this is actually pretty funny, that they are playing a Berlin, something used for draws at you know, at the highest level today. Basically the only move played, everything here is just a draw, but queen e2, and Steinitz really didn't know about the draws, right? He really wanted to have a game, and you know, he was just playing like a normal Berlin, and here the players just developed their pieces, and in the end, knight c5, right? Steinitz just got a little bit more activity, and even though he made a little bit of an inaccuracy here, he still had the pieces to cover for that, the activity, I mean. Bishop to f5, this is a blunder. Why? Because you're not really attacking the knight, you're not really putting any pressure on that. a5 is a threat, but a4 comes first, and now even a5 stopping the threat of a5. Knight back to b5, now even a6, and after the trade we have b6, and now this is gonna be a liability, but okay, c5 is possible, so it's not that hard to solve. But the position was equal except rook d7. This is a mistake. Why? Well, c5 would have been better, just solving that problem that's you know, existing. dc5, for example, bc5, and now maybe a move like h4 stopping g5. But instead, what Zukertort did, rook d7, now just allows knight to b4, and this is just too much of a threat. g5, but it doesn't come in time, and this move f5, yes, you're threatening f4, but f4 myself. Actually, here what Steinitz failed to see is that after knight takes on c6, I mean, you're simply winning. You don't really care about the move f4. Because after the move f4, you're just gonna go knight e5 check, and you're gonna win the rook anyways. Because okay, king e6, let's say, now you're just gonna sacrifice the bishop, for example, and you're gonna get rook h3, and I mean the computer doesn't even want to take the rook. That's how savage it is. But okay, because you're gonna lose the rook anyways. But still, I mean you're just very much winning here. But okay, Steinitz didn't necessarily see all the variation. He played f4 himself, knight c6, and the same thing kind of happens here. I mean, you know, he's just winning the pawns, and then in the end he even, I mean, he temporarily sacks an exchange to win, just end up in a completely winning king and pawn endgame. Now he just has to win, and Zukertort resigns. So now I'm going to show you one last game from this match, game number 19th. This is the second to last game, and you know, basically Steinitz did not give Zukertort the chance to get to get back in the game. So after that 4-game win streak that Zukertort had, he won one game. That was game 13, and then Steinitz just, I mean, he completely annihilated him in New Orleans. He destroyed, and you know, this game was actually annotated by Fischer himself. We're actually gonna flip the board once again because we're watching from Steinitz's perspective, and he was with the black pieces. And so, you know, this is kind of following the same trend as in the first game, but it's actually a Queen's Gambit decline, like a very normal variation because the bishop is not out. And here, you know, White plays a mistake already. That's what Fischer says. He should play e3, just guarding the pawn, obviously, and developing the bishop. b6, b4 now, and you know, just going on an inaccuracy. And this allows a5 and just the undermining of the structure. And here Fischer says now he plays this fantastic move. It's the winning move, d4. And here Fischer also says he can't take with the knight because of a takes b4. So he cannot take with the knight because a takes b4, and you cannot take back because after rook takes, queen takes, now you're just gonna take the knight and you're gonna be a piece up. So we have bishop takes on f6, g takes on f6, bishop on f6 was also possible, but now knight a4, and here e5. And here Fischer says the kingside weakness is nothing, the center is easily winning. The computer disagrees a little bit, and it prefers this a takes on b5 move. A takes on b4. Why? Because after a takes on b4, well, now you can play e5. And what's the difference? Well, we're just gonna see in the variation. a5, now you can just play b5. And this move is pretty crucial with no pressure on the knight whatsoever by the rook. Now the rook here is looking a little bit silly. But okay, bishop to e6 and g3, right players continuing development. And here apparently Zukertort had one last chance to stay in the game, b6, keeping things kind of closed and you know, kind of accommodating Steinitz with his development. Maybe knight a6, rook c1 could be a sample line, but he took, and now it's basically the beginning of the end. You know, he tries a couple of moves, but Steinitz just breaks through. He attacks the knight, he defends the pawn, he just gets everything right there, and he just sacrificed this knight here, but only temporarily. He can pick up the knight, but this is not even the best move. e3 is the best move. Knight back to c3. You don't even care. You just attack. You push the pawns, and you're easily winning here. Bishop b3. Queen takes on f5. You even give up a pawn. You make a queen. You take, and now you even play this move. And after queen takes on c3, Zukertort resigned and almost congratulated Steinitz on the win, but the score was 9-5, and it was first to 10 wins. The comeback could have been possible, but ultimately it did not happen. So that was the game. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and it's gonna be more and more interesting, you know, the series from now on. So yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Kowalsky